UK EU Defense Pact cooperation without convergence in a fragmented European order. By design, not by accident, the United Kingdom and the European Union have returned to security cooperation without returning to strategic unity. The May 2025 Strategic Partnership Agreement is neither reconciliation nor reintegration. It is a functional arrangement born from systematic pressure, calibrated to manage risk rather than reshape power. A return without reunion. History rarely moves in straight line. In European security, it moves in circles, sometimes tightening, sometimes loosening, but rarely breaking altogether. The formalization of the UK EU Strategic Partnership Agreement in May 2025 marks one such tightening. After years of post Brexit estrangement, Britain and the European Union have re established institutional scrutiny security cooperation. Yet, this return should not be mistaken for a reversal of Brexit strategic logic. The agreement is not a bridge back to integration, but a carefully engineered mechanism to survive a deteriorating security environment without surrendering autonomy. This distinction matters. The pact reflects not renewed trust but shared vulnerability. It is not a statement of unity but an admission of constraint. The cultural shock, a receding hegemon. At the center of this recalibration lies a reality European policymakers have struggled to publicly acknowledge: the gradual withdrawal of the United States from its role as Europe's unquestioned security guarantor. As Washington remains committed to NATO in formal terms, its strategic gravity has shifted decisively towards the Indo-Pacific. China, not Russia, now defines the primary horizon of American power planning. The shift has been accompanied by a more transactional US posture towards allies. Burden sharing demands, skepticism towards indefinite forward deployment, and an increasing tolerance for European strategic exposure have eroded the assumption that underpinned most Cold War security architecture. Europe's long accustomed to strategic outsourcing now faces the consequences of dependency. The war in Ukraine accelerated this reckoning. Russia's willingness to absorb economic punishment and sustain prolonged conflict exposed the limits of deterrence based solely on economic interdependence. It also revealed Europe's material weaknesses, ammunition shortage, industrial bottlenecks, and reliance on external logistics. Against this backdrop, cooperation between the UK and EU ceased to be political question, became a strategic necessity, cooperation under constraint, not integration by design. The structure of the UK EU defense partnership reflects a deep awareness of these constraints. Unlike traditional alliances or supranational agreements, the agreement is explicitly not binding. It doesn't establish mutual defense obligations, shared command structures, or permanent institutional integration. Instead, it creates a modular framework, one that allows collaboration in a specific domain while preserving maximum political discretion. Areas such as cyber defense, military mobility, crisis response, counter hybrid threats form the backbone of cooperation. These domains share a common feature: they are transnational by nature but politically sensitive, requiring coordination without surrendering sovereignty. The agreement enables joint action where unilateralism is inefficient, while avoiding commitments that might entangle either party in unwanted escalation. Crucially, the UK is not granted standing access to the core EU defence institutions such as the European Defence Agreement or permanent structural cooperation. Participation is negotiated project by project, reinforcing the ad hoc nature of the relationship. This architecture reflects a broader trend in global security governance: the shift from hierarchical alliances to issue specific coalitions designed to manage risk rather than enforce unity. Industrial realities beneath strategic rhetoric. Beneath the diplomatic language of partnership lies a harder truth. Material capacity drives strategy, not declarations. The European Union has moved aggressively to consolidate its defense industrial base, deploying instruments such as the European Defense Fund and the European Defense Industrial Program to promote internal procurement and technological self sufficiency. These initiatives are not neutral, they are explicitly designed to privilege EU based farms and reduce dependency on external suppliers. For the UK, this poses a dilemma. Once a central pillar of Europe's defense industrial ecosystem, Britain now finds itself structurally disadvantaged. Years of investment, compounded by Brexit related trade frictions, have weakened supply chains and reduced production capacity. Skill shortages and fiscal constraints limit further the UK's ability to sustain defense modernization at scale. Participating in EU projects thus serves a compensatory function. It provides access to collaborative research, joint procurement, and industrial synergies that Britain can no longer generate domestically. Yet, this engagement is tactical, not ideological. The UK seeks material benefits without regulatory assumptions, cooperations without subordinations, strategic identity, and the persistence of sovereignty. Despite shared threats, the UK and EU remain anchored to distinct strategic identities. Britain continues to position itself as globally oriented security actor, emphasizing its NATO commitments, bilateral partnerships, and special relations with the United States. Its defense posture remains expeditionary, outward looking, and anchored in transatlantic frameworks. The European Union, by contrast, has embraced the language of strategic autonomy, while others misunderstood as a rejection of NATO. This concept reflects a desire to reduce dependence on external actors and gain control over security decision making. It's an aspiration shaped as much as American unpredictability as by the Russian aggression. These identities are merely not rhetorical, they are institutionalized. The strategic partnership agreement explicitly affirms that cooperations must occur within existing legal and institutional framework. The clause serves as a safeguard against overreach, signaling that neither side is willing to compromise constitutional prerogatives or strategic independence. Sovereignty remains the red line. A non hierarchical security environment, the UK EU Pact exemplifies a broader transformation in international security. As global power diffuses and alliances fatigue deepens, state increases favor flexible. States increasingly favor flexible, non hierarchical arrangements. These coalitions are designed to be reversible, interest based, and limited in scope. They allow cooperations without permanence, alignment without dependence. In this context, the partnership should be understood less as a bilateral breakthrough, more as an adaptation to systematic uncertainty. It enables Britain and the European Union to manage shared vulnerabilities, particularly those related to Russian hybrid tactics and cyber threats, without committed to a unified strategic vision. This model reflects a world in which long term commitments are viewed as liabilities rather than assets. Stability is pursued through redundancy and optionality, not integration. The illusions and limits of strategic autonomy. Both the UK and EU invoke strategic autonomy, yet neither possesses it in full. Britain remains deeply reliant on US intelligence, logistics, and advanced technologies. Its ambitions for independent action are constrained by budgetary realities and industrial capacity. The European Union, for its past, faces internal divisions over threat perceptions and defense spending, with NATO still serving as the ultimate security backdrop. The partnership thus functions as a hedge, a way to pool resources and coordinate responses without confronting these limitations directly. It mitigates vulnerability without resolving dependency. This is not strategic autonomy achieved, but strategic autonomy managed. Conclusion: stability without transformation. The UK EU Defense Pact is best understood as a product of necessity rather than vision. It reflects a Europe adjusting to the absence of a reliable hegemon, a Britain navigating post Brexit realities, and a security environment defined by the fragmentation rather than cohesion. This is not the foundation of a new European order. It is a mechanism for endurance. Cooperation exists not because convergence has occurred, but because divergence has become too costly to ignore. In an era marked by uncertainty, constraint, and constrained power, the agreement represents a pragmatic compromise, one that prioritizes flexibility over ambition and survivability over transformation. In that sense, the pact tells us about the future of UK EU relations, then about the present condition of European security itself, adaptive, cautious, and fundamentally limited by the structures it seeks to preserve.